Hello, friends. Thanks for coming. Welcome to our Lunch and Learn series. I have a few things to tell you, then we'll get right into this amazing and super interesting program about Clue. Um, First of all, I am going to revert to bribery. Um, every, we have a survey on the table, and we ask you to fill it out because it helps us understand not only about the current program, but also asks you to help us brainstorm about other organizations and speakers you might want to see. The survey also asks for you to join Friends of the Heart. So if you haven't joined yet, please do it today. The great thing is that you get special invitations to volunteer opportunities and programming, and it's just a way to affiliate as a supporter of Immaculate Heart. So what are we bribing you with? I've got a jar of hearts, and for either the Friend of the Heart or for the survey or both, you can pick a couple hearts out of the jar. So don't ask for anything else because I don't have anything else. um, the other thing is that there's information on the back table, and there you can find information on how to join the community. There's a form, besides for Friends of the Heart, if you want to make a deeper commitment, then you can read more about what that means. And I'm excited to say our calendar grows every month. This month we're busy doing a lot of different things. I wanted to call attention to our next Lunch and Learn here in August is with Reverend Jamie Edwards Acton. He is an amazing activist, and he's going to be speaking about sacred resistance. So you'll see this in the back. And then for those who want to travel, we have a Lunch and Learn also from the Clue organization, but up in Santa Barbara. So that's happening on July 23rd, and you can see our beautiful La Casa de Maria at the same time of having a nice lunch and hearing a speaker from Clue up there does different work, similar but different, so you could hear more. Now, just to remind everybody that these are also online. So for our friends that are online, or for you who might not want to travel, you can always find these programs on our website. There's registration links. We also have a film club, an online film club, which is really nice, which takes the best of the LA International Short Film Festival and brings to your living room. And we have a discussion with the filmmakers after their films are screened. So the next one is August 25th. And again, you can find out more information on our website. Also, the LA International Short Film Festival, it begins their screening at the end of the month. And they will sell out the opening night. It's an opening night that we sponsor because they sponsor Justice Films. But we have some Friends of the Heart tickets at no charge for the opening night and for the rest of the festival. So if you're interested in attending the opening night or the rest of the festival, come see me because I could put you on the list. You know somebody who knows somebody. And then the last two things are to save the dates. We have an amazing program. There's something about Mary, mysterious, magical, and magnificent. And this is going to be an essential conversation hosted at St. James Episcopal Cathedral. And I'm sorry, I meant St. John's Episcopal Cathedral. And you'll be getting something in the mail today, the email today. But we want to put it on your calendar, and we want you to come, and we want you to invite people to come. The speakers are going to be really interesting, and it's going to be an interactive program, so it's not going to be your lecture too. It'll be including music and experts and lunch and conversation, and it also happens to be the feast day of the Immaculate Heart community. That's August 22nd. And the last thing is we have a save the date for our annual fundraiser. And this fundraiser, it's called the Taste of Justice, but the topic is creating spiritual spaces together. And so you'll be getting that in the email the next day or two, and we hope you register and again invite people. So I want to bring up Sherry Purcell, who will introduce our speaker and tell more about our community.
Thank you, Pam. Welcome, everybody. It's always fun to see who's here because we always have new faces and we also have some frequent flyers who we love seeing every time, too. So, welcome, everybody. One of our practices that we have started with our Lunch and Learns is to begin with our Power Up reflection. And these bookmarks are on the back table if you want to take one with you. And the idea is to kind of remind ourselves to pause every day whenever you have time. We initially started it at noon every day, and so we're kind of at noon right now. Again, the idea is to drop out of the chaos and drop into your hearts for a few minutes. So if you're so inclined, I'm going to invite you to power up your heart with us. So you may want to close your eyes. I suggest you put your hand over your heart, and we will begin. So take a deep breath into your heart and power it up. Deep breath. And then send that power, that love out across Los Angeles and our community here. And we want to envelop the people who are suffering, the people who are struggling, the people who have been victimized by the current administration and the situations that so many people are facing these days. So let's surround those folks with prayer and with love. And then drop into your heart again, a couple of deep breaths, power it up. And then send that loving energy across our nation. Again, to the many people who are finding themselves in different states of loss, different states of fear, different uncertainties that maybe they didn't face a few years ago. Let's let them know by our energy that they are seen and we are with them. Drop into your heart again, breathe deeply, power it up, and this time send the energy around the world. Our country is not in this alone. We are struggling as a planet. Mother Earth is struggling. And we all need to recognize that we are one. So let's join together that energy with everybody on this planet. And then one more time, drop into your hearts, power it up. And this time, let's send that loving energy to each other in this room. We're gathered here today because we have like minds and like hearts about many of these issues, and we're gathered here today to learn more about how we might impact some of the challenges that we face in our lives today. And with that, I say, let it be. Amen. Thank you. So, once again, welcome to Lunch and Learn. Because we always have some new faces, I'd like to just give a little infomercial about the Immaculate Heart community for those of you who might not know who we are. You can probably tell from our name that we were originally a Catholic canonical community that we began in Spain in the 1840s, and then 10 women came over to California in the 1870s, established schools and hospitals, and that community thrived for many, many years, up until 1970 when the Second Vatican Council was happening. And the women at that time, there were about 600 of them, really embraced the progressive movement of the Catholic Church at that point in time. But they tangled with the local cardinal, and if you don't know the story, you might want to watch the documentary called Rebel Hearts, which is on It was on Prime. I heard it's also on, somebody help me, HBO, yeah. So you can see it then, and then we do frequent screenings of it also if you want to see it. But anyway, all of that changed in the 1970s when this community was formed. We are currently an ecumenical lay community. We're no longer nuns. We don't live in a convent. We are men and women, gay and straight, married, single. We believe in God, and we believe in acting out our faith through our justice and social justice work. We consider ourselves to be a community without walls. We have members in Canada and in England now. And we do accept new members every year, so check us out. Please become a friend of the heart so that you get put on the mailing list so you can be involved in our activities. So we started the Lunch and Learns over 3 years ago, and this gives us an opportunity to live out our goal statement, which calls us to hold reverence for all creation and build relations in society which foster access of all persons to truth, dignity, and full human development, and to strategically change practices and situations which impact such access. And one way we think we do that is by bringing together groups like this to strategically change those practices by showcasing the heroes and sheroes of our time who are doing the work. So as you sit here, we're attempting to do three things with you. We want to educate ourselves on the topic that we're going to be listening to. We ask you to pray in your own faith tradition, and then listen and try to find ways to act so that you're making a difference after you're here today. We're going to be welcoming in a minute Jennifer Correa from CLU, and everybody knows Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice. She's with CLU. As you listen to Jennifer, please consider how her message is impacting you and how you might find new ways to go forward from this meeting. So we're pleased to have Jennifer Correa. I wrote Correa, that's why. Jennifer Correa, okay. Jennifer Correa with us. She's an organizer for CLU Immigration. Her work is faith-based, and she holds a bachelor's degree in business marketing from California State University, Long Beach. After graduating, her experiences with her own congregation ignited her commitment to advocacy for immigrant communities. In 2024, she participated in CLU's Young Religious Leaders Fellowship program, where her passion for faith-based organizing began. IHC has benefited from Jennifer's work, and in our collaboration with CLU, our members have participated in many demonstrations, activities, events. In 2024, one of our members, Rosa Manriquez, who is active in CLU, helped found the Godmothers of the Disappeared. And for the last year and a half, that group has held weekly vigils every Tuesday at noon outside the downtown Federal Building. They provide a faithful presence and witness to the disappearance and detention of immigrants by ICE at that building. In the past 3 years, IHC's helped to sponsor the annual CLU Posada and the Young Religious Leadership Fellowship Intern Program. And if I can brag a little bit, in 2025, we received the CLU's Giants of Justice Award, which was a great honor for us. So we're very proud of our relationship with CLU, and we're happy to highlight their work today, especially Jennifer's work on immigration. So please join me in welcoming Jennifer Correa to the podium.
Thank you. You saved me an introduction. Oh my God, the microphone works. Hi everyone, my name is Jennifer Correa. I am a CLU immigration organizer. Thank you so much for having me into this space. I'll be talking about, particularly immigration work at CLU. Okay, but before we get started, I would like to introduce my intern, Angel, who will share a little bit about Clue's history and a little bit about what this organization is about. So I'll hand off them.
Hi. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, hi. My name is Angel Eudofia, and I am a YRLF at Clue this summer. And a YRLF is a Young Religious Leadership Fellowship at Clue. And before today I'm going to talk about what is Clue, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the history of Clue, because to know what is Clue, we need to know where it came from. So Clue stands for Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, and Clue was founded in the mid-1990s, specifically 1996, and it emerged outside of the LA Living Wage campaign that was happening in Los Angeles. So it was convened by leaders such as Maria Elena Durazo and Madeline Janis, and it was a small but mighty group of clergy and laity leaders that came together to help support workers' rights. But its founding leadership, it was founded by leaders such as Leonard Bierman, and specifically I'm going to talk about Reverend James Lawson, who helped co-found the movement. And Reverend James Lawson was a prominent leader during the civil rights movement, and specifically he worked alongside Dr. Martin Luther King, and he was a huge advocate for nonviolence. So Lawson's work rooted Clue in the ideals and principles of nonviolence, justice, and public witness. So what is the idea of nonviolence? So Lawson believed that nonviolence was not passive, but love in action. He believed that the church could not be separate from the realities people face both in the marketplace and at work. And some of Clue's early actions included supporting hotel workers, fighting for living wages, and organizing visible faith-based actions across Los Angeles. So some of those actions and examples of those actions included Java for Justice, helping put pressure around living wages for the LAX workers, and organizing food service workers at USC. So today, Clue continues that legacy through immigrant support, rapid response networks, bond funds, welcome congregations, and campaigns for economic justice. Some of those campaigns who they support is immigrants, the Black and Brown Faith Coalition, and economic justice. So Clue's work is relevant now more than ever and speaks to the needs of workers and immigrants today. So as it says up here, Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice, we educate, organize, and mobilize faith leaders and community members to accompany workers and immigrants in their struggle for dignity and justice.
Thank you, Angel. Wonderful, right? Now we'll get started and talk about one of Clue's immigration work. It's called the Clue's Welcome Network. This is in coalition of faith leaders, congregations, and community allies that provide temporary shelter, accompaniment, and support for asylum seekers and immigrants. It's born out of the LA's Welcome Collective, now growing as Clue's own sustainable network. We have 30 plus congregations and faith partners currently providing short-term and overnight shelter. This includes safe and affirming spaces for LGBTQ plus migrants. As you can see in the picture there, we have Tahunga Methodist Church. Right now, Pastor Kevin is housing 3 Iranian siblings who were just released from Adelanto Detention Center. They needed a place to stay, so Pastor Kevin stepped up and is providing this shelter support through Clue's Welcome Network. Pastor Kevin is also renovating his space in order to have more asylum seekers living in the congregation. I was actually introduced through through the Clue's Welcome Network. So my personal story is my mom is a pastor at Grace Evangelical Lutheran Church of Bell. She was housing asylum seekers living in her congregation. At one point, she got a request to house in 20 Mauritanians who were just released from Adelanto Detention Center. They were living at the church on top of other asylum seekers living at my mom's church. So we had more than 40 asylum seekers and immigrant communities living in living in the congregation. I had just graduated college, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my career choice. It did not look like marketing because of this experience. So I just knew I needed to step up and help my mom take care of these 20 asylum seekers from Mauritania. The first challenge that we encountered was the language barrier. Because the Mauritanians only spoke a dialect Kapulard, they did not speak Spanish, they did not speak English, so I knew that that was a challenge that we would kind of face head on. My mom had a brilliant idea, as all mothers do, was like, why don't you teach them English and I'll teach them Spanish? And I said, okay, I could do that. And one of the things that the Mauritanians asked me is that I needed to find a job. So I help them like learn different phrases, how to count money, how to get by in order for them to kind of have a job, because most of the times the folks that were living at my congregation were the breadwinners, the ones that were taking care of the families. So that's why as soon as they got out of the Adelanto Detention Center, that's the first thing they want to do was get money in order to send back to their loved ones, right? So that's one challenge that we faced, was the language barrier. Another thing that we kind of challenge that we had to come across was the cultural difference. Because they were from Mauritania, I did not know anything about their faith, their religion, just their cultural, what they did, what they had to eat, just how many times they prayed. So then CLU connected us with with the temple that was close to our church to kind of help us navigate these challenges, educate us on their faith tradition, educate us on how to better take care for these asylum seekers living in the congregation. So we connected to a temple nearby. It teaches us a little bit about their faith tradition and how to better take care of them. Another thing that we had a challenge was the food insecurity. So imagine feeding 20 hungry men at the church, trying to figure out how we're going to able to do that, right? So CLU connected us with Emmanuel Presbyterian Church, who at the time had a food distribution network. So he gave us like a whole pallet for folks that were living in the congregation in order for for these asylum seekers to be fed. So that's how we were able to kind of take care of these asylum seekers through the collaboration work with CLU. And I learned a lot taking care of the folks living at my church, just a little bit about what they went through, why did they have to flee their home country, what kind of experiences they had at Adelanto Detention Center, why did they have to flee. So it was just a very grounding and very learning experience on my end, and that kind of motivated me to want to apply for the YRLF that Angel is currently on. And so that began my journey of wanting to be a faith immigration organizer. So now I'm here doing a presentation with all of y'all. So I'm very grateful to be here in this space with you all. So with that being said, CLU's Welcome Network is really close to my heart, and that's one way to help support our immigrant communities through this way, which is providing shelter. And it could be very humbling, but very learning the deep experience with folks you meet directly with folks who have been affected. But before we move on to the next, I would like to talk about how CLU's Welcome Network started, right? As I said, it was born out of the LA's Welcome Collective. This was a humanitarian response to newly arrived asylum seeker bust from Texas in 2023. The collective was made of staff volunteers from many organizations, along with staff from the Office of Mayor Karen Bass and other city departments, several county agencies, and LA's USD, who mobilized each time bus full of migrants was announced. In 2023 alone, a total of 32 buses arrived at Union Station in Los Angeles, carrying 1,188 asylum-seeking migrants. Each bus typically accommodated between 45 to 55 migrants, including both adults and children. So this is something that we saw a need in our immigrant communities, so we decided to have our own CLU's Welcome Network because that need began even after that took place. So we still are needing support with the Welcomes Network in order to house more immigrant communities who need the support and housing in order for them to kind of transition their lives here at the U.S. So that is how the CLU's Welcome Network began. I'll now talk about one of the other ways you can show support support through CLU's work, which is the food distribution and grocery bag delivery. We are partnered with different organizations and congregations that are able to provide this food assistance to our immigrant communities. One of them, as you guys know that I mentioned, Emmanuel Presbyterian Church, St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, Tahunga UMC, and others. This is a picture of the Emmanuel Presbyterian Church. And when the raid started, we noticed that our immigrant communities were too scared to leave their homes, too scared to go to work, too scared to even buy simple food, right? So CLU's Safety Bin organized volunteers in order to help have a group of volunteers who can prepackage groceries and deliver to families across LA. So this is one of the ways that we helped our immigrant communities because we saw that need, that they were scared to even leave their house because of so many raids that were targeting our immigrant communities in the streets. So this is one of the ways that we have been able to assess. Another way that we saw that started was the Interfaith Women Vigils. And I know Sherry mentioned a little bit about the Godmothers to Disappear. We have the founder here, Reverend Rosa, that founded and started this group. It's the Godmothers to Disappear. We meet up every Tuesday at 12 p.m. in front of the LA Federal Building. We start in the front and then process to the side of the building. We make a stop there because we have family members that visit their loved ones that were detained in the detention center that day or that were taken into that detention center. So we do a stop there and then we end up at the back. Back in June, we had even National Guards there. So that's why we lay flowers in front of the National Guard. Sometimes the National Guards would get teary-eyed because they couldn't believe this humanitarian response from our communities, laying flowers and being there with our communities and praying for them. So when we lay flowers, we typically say a loved one or a family that has been impacted by immigration enforcement, and that's why it's very beautiful to come and attend. Also because in these vigils, we have very powerful testimony speakers from families, from organizers who have been on the ground to kind of share a little bit about what it has been like supporting our immigrant communities through that work. I'll actually share a story that kind of I've been reflecting a lot this year. So we had two organizers there kind of talk about how it was responding to alert from a community member who was detained outside of her home. So this community member was detained outside of her home. She was then transported to a detention center because she was taken and targeted at her home. And then en route, she began to feel ill. And so the ICE agents decided to make a stop to check up. She began to vomit. However, she was still handcuffed. So she was handcuffed in her own vomit for hours until the agents finally decided she was not faking this sickness. So then they decided to take her to a hospital in Glendale Memorial Hospital. And the ICE agents did not leave the hospital. They were in the lobby intimidating the community members that were supporting this community member. They were intimidating the folks who were going to their hospital, checking in on their families. So they were there in the lobby while we were showing up to show support for this community member who was targeted by ICE. The doctors and nurses were making sure that this community member had a long stay at the hospital. They were trying to be complicit for her to stay there as long as they can. The ICE agents got frustrated and escorted her to another hospital in Anaheim. And that hospital in Anaheim is known to be cooperative with ICE, so therefore they can do whatever they want in that hospital. And so in that moment, in the Glendale Memorial Hospital, she was able to visit her family, but in this new hospital, she was not able to even communicate with her family. The family had to communicate outside of the hospital through a megaphone. She was handcuffed to her bed the entire time she was at the Anaheim hospital, while ICE agents were in that hospital room 24/7. So you can imagine how much this community member went to. Too much to the point where she was then transferred to another faraway state jail. And then that's when she decided to self-deport herself. And the reason I tell this story, because this is one of many that our immigrant communities are going through. We do not know the specifics of what exactly this community member went through, but these are just the few things that I know since we were on the ground supporting this community member. So that just can highlight just exactly what goes on a day-to-day basis with our immigrant communities. And so that story has been really reflecting me in my kind of organizing, just thinking about what other people have been going through, and this is just one of many. And we try to elevate those voices, elevate those stories, elevate those organizers who are on the ground supporting this work and just sharing exactly what's going on the ground. So that's why we do these weekly Tuesdays vigils to kind of uplift those stories that are often hidden from the public, and these details should be known to the public, right, in order to better show up and support our immigrant communities. So we try to do that every Tuesday at 12 p.m., and on the OC Women's Vigil, these happen bi-weekly. These happen and take place at the Santa Ana Immigration Court. And if you see that building, there's no signs that says this is the Santa Ana Immigration Court. There's no, like, in the LA Federal, it's a big sign, and Santa Ana is just one little saying Santa Ana Immigration Court, and that's all you know. So that should let you know what exactly takes place back in June. A lot of community members were separated, just simply doing the right thing, which is going to court as they were told to in order to get citizenship, in order to get in status. And so that's why we do these vigils at the OC Santa Ana Immigration Court, because we want to remember all those lives that have been separated and in this building. So that's another way to show support, because I know not all of us can attend 3-mile actions, right? Sometimes I even get tired. So this is just one way to show support, which is walking around the street and holding our dear neighbors in our hearts through the demonstration of our flowers. Another way to show support is the court observation and accompaniment work that Angel will pass out, that I have brought with you here. Would you mind? So the court observation and accompaniment work, we noticed that since our immigrant communities were being targeted in the street, what is going on behind closed doors? What is going on inside these spaces? So what we noticed is that ICE agents were in these spaces kidnapping folks that were going to court and detain as soon as they exit the courtroom and enter the hallways. So what we try to do is have a group of volunteers to show up from Monday to Friday in order to keep track of what's going on inside the immigration court, but also notifying family members in case their loved one is detained that morning or afternoon. So there's different reasons why we show up other than accompanying immigrant communities. We provide moral presence in these spaces. We bear witness to the injustices happening at court. We try to make sure we notify family members if their loved ones are detained. For those who are interested in taking the being part of the court reserve, you will be trained. I would like to ask you to turn the page to the agenda of the court observation training. So this is pretty much what I go through in my training. I talk about what our purpose there. I talk about that our purpose is not to be arrested that morning, not yet at least. We are nonviolent. We want to make sure you guys know how to identify undercover ICE. We want to make sure there's different roles that you can do in order to be part of this work. We also want you to know how to better identify yourself in a court setting. We do not want to say we're from CLU, because if you were to go to court and they were to ask you to identify yourself, the respondent, meaning the person who's going to court, will not know what CLU is as an organization, whether they're for me, whether they're against me. They will not know, but they will know if you are a faith community observer. So that's how you should identify yourself, so they know that a person from church is here observing my proceedings, a person with moral presence or compass are here with me in my immigration proceedings, so I'm not alone in this courtroom. And we also want to observe master cases. Master cases is the beginning stages of your immigration court proceedings. So when ICE agents were there, it led to two things. One of those, it led for your case to be dismissed. What that means is that your case is closed. Therefore, let's say you're applying for asylum. The judge thought that you didn't have enough evidence or claim for you to continue to seek that asylum case, so therefore they shut it down. That means that you will be detained by ICE that morning if ICE agents were there. So what we try to do is connect with the community member before they enter the hallway and are detained by ICE. What we try to do, if you turn the page on the back, this is how we would get people's information. As you can see, it's in Spanish, so you do not need to speak Spanish in order to get people's information. A lot of my volunteers are English speaking, and we've noticed that just showing this to a community member will more likely get their information, and we would call them and tell them the next steps. So I'm gonna translate what it says in Spanish. It says, "We are people of faith. We have seen ICE detain people in the hallways. Leaving, you can't get detained. In case that were to happen, can I please get the next information? Notify your family of what happened and how to find you." The reason why we say this can happen to you, because when we first started this core observations, we were still learning, and we decided, when a community member was like, "You will be detained as soon as you exit court," I mean, that would frighten me, that would scare me, that would immediately make me call my loved one, that would make me be on high alert with my emotions. So instead, we want to ask their information in a calm setting, or calmer than it is, and get their information in order for us to get it. If not, we've noticed that they have even got physical with ICE agents if we didn't tell them that they would be detained. We instead say, this can be a possibility. In case anything were to happen, can I please get your information? And the information we get from the person who is going to be detained is their name, their country and date of birth, their A number, and then a name and a contact information of a loved one. And an A number is your case number. Everybody who's going to court has their own have their own case number. And so the reason why we get so much information is because nowadays your name is not enough in order for you to locate or find your loved one. That's why we ask so much information from the community member that's about to be detained. And a typical phone call, I would say, "Hey, unfortunately, your loved one was detained this morning. This is the information. If you don't already, in order for you to locate them, you can also send them the tracker to see where exactly they're being transferred out." We also let them know that they will be detained and taken to the detention center that's located in the back of the LA Federal Building. We also let them know to bring a jacket with no symbols or wording. And we also let them know that they can bring medicine that's on their name, not over-the-counter medicine. So that's two of the things that we say. We also say, here's a list of resources that you can call in order for you to find an immigration attorney, because immigration cases are time sensitive. So I encourage you to call the lists. And then we also let them know that if they are undocumented and are thinking of visiting this person, they might be possibly detained. So what I also say is that if you do not want to visit them because you do not have status and are scared of that possibility, I can coordinate somebody to go and visit your loved one while he's being detained in the detention center. So these are the things that we do with aftercare and the steps that we provide when somebody is detained that morning. So that's why it's very important not just to be there when ICE is there, but also keep track of what's going inside the immigration court. So some of the things that are going inside the immigration court that we've noticed is, before I get started, that is where families wait in line to visit their loved ones from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. As you can see, there's no signs. There's no saying, hey, this is go down here, make a right, go to the B18, this is where you visit your loved one. There's no signs at all. It kind of looks like a parking structure, right? So you kind of go through that sign. That's kind of where we make a stop at the Godmother's Vigil, and then head down, and you see that B18. So you head inside, and then the security guard, you touch on the doorbell, and then you say who you're there for. You would provide them with the A number, and then they would ask for your ID in order to be let in to visit somebody. I think you get 15 minutes to visit somebody. It's a very short visitation, so just be aware to let the community members know to give any phone numbers that's very important for them to have, such as an immigration attorney if they have one, such as a family member's friend. So it's very important that you use those 15 minutes wisely if you were to visit somebody down there, but also bring a sweater and some medicine if they need it as well. So that's where we visit and also where we stop for the Godmother's Vigil when somebody gets detained. Some of the things, not just we're just there because ICE is there. Sometimes we're there most of the time when ICE is not there in order to keep track of what's going inside immigration court. So one of the things that I've noticed that took place was the ACA, which is Asylum Cooperative Agreement. So let's say you were applying for asylum. So these people were being removed to third countries. That included Uganda, that included Guatemala, that included El Salvador, and other countries that were in agreement in order for these people to be removed to those countries, even if you do not have affiliation to those countries, even though if you do not have friends, families, they would just get you removed because they are considered safe countries. So that is what took place. Thank God it stopped now. However, that's something we noticed and we reported back to our partners. Another thing that we noticed is that every Wednesdays there are unaccompanied minors going to court on Wednesdays on courtroom number 1 with Rachel Rianne. And I was surprised when I had my first 7-year-old accompaniment request. I mean, can you believe a 7-year-old going to court because he had a court case? Thankfully, I had a training there, and we were to be there with the community. We have 23 priests, so he was well accompanied that day, and we were able to get him a lawyer, thank God, so he is represented through court. But that is one of the patterns we noticed, was that on Wednesdays, unaccompanied minors had their hearing. So that's a great day to be there and support and observe. Another thing that we noticed as of recent is mega master hearings. This is a tactic to speed up deportation. What that means is that, let's say you had a hearing in 2027, all of a sudden you have a hearing in 2 weeks and you did not know about it. Therefore, they're trying to speed up and these hearings, speed up the immigration cases for you not to know that this has changed, and therefore would note you as failed to appear, and there would be consequences for not showing up to your court, right? So this is what we're observing, which is the mega master hearing. So now we're seeing sometimes even 50 plus people going to court that same day for that one judge. So you can imagine how full the courtrooms are now, especially since these mega master hearings are being so prevalent in our communities and are targeting in this way. So that is something that we're noticing right now in immigration court. So that's why it's very important to kind of keep track of what's going on inside, and that way we can better respond to immigrant communities and report back to our partners so they can assess how we can better show up and be there. So that is one way to show support. And accompaniment request is I try to coordinate those from those persons we meet at court, from organizations that contact if they have a fearful immigrant community going to court that day that they need support in. We do accompaniment for check-ins, court hearings. And in my training, I take you through all floors so you kind of are prepared and equipped to provide accompaniment to the community member. So we go to all the floors, not just the floors for the observing court, but also through the check-in floors, so you know what they look like and how to better respond and take care of the community member who's going to court or an ICE check-in that day. So that is one of the ways to show up, which is through court observations and accompaniment work, which started based on June. This, I love talking about the bond fund. The CLUE Detained Immigrant Bond Fund and sponsorship. So this bond fund, I just want to give a shout out to all of you who have raised $55,000. I mean, that is amazing. Give your guys a clap, because that has been able to reunite so many families that are not able to afford bond. Bond can go up to, the most I personally seen a bond is $100,000. $100,000 for that community member to be released and be with their family. So that is a lot of money for that person to gather, and so bonds are just ridiculously high. But bonds can go low as $1,500. So that's why I say all donations do matter in order to help reunite a family, because lawyers sometimes are expensive, especially if you're paying them for months, waiting for that bond hearing process, waiting for the bond to be approved. So it's just a lot of financial burden for the family, especially if the breadwinner is detained. And so this started in partnership with immigrant Defenders of Law Center, also known as IMDEF. CLU is providing detained immigrants with bond money that allows them to get out of detention and return back to their lives. So we have been able to reunite up to date 160 families with this bond, so that is amazing. However, there's so many people who are on the list, even if it's so hard to even get your bond granted, because we're getting word that it's very hard to have that bond granted or approved. However, we have a long list of families waiting to be assisted through this effort. And it used to average last year $5,000 for a bond. Now it's twice or three times the amount. An average of a bond is $10,000, $15,000, $25,000. So you have to pay everything in one payment. So usually we have amazing volunteers who are here who can make that paperwork and transmit in order to make that reunification of family. So all you have to do is wait 4 to 5 hours in order to transmit that paperwork, process the payment until the detention center is like, okay, I got your check. They can go ahead and proceed the release of the detainee. But just know in those 5 hours, you are reuniting a family, or possibly 3 if you get 3 bonds that day. So with that being said, we still need support and donations in order to reunite so many families that are going through these difficult circumstances in order to be assisted through financial support. And in addition is that sometimes judges are increasingly granting release when a sponsor is identified. Many cases do not require financial or housing support, just a responsible community member. So I provided you with the sponsorship handout on the first page. This sponsorship handout, sometimes judges do not grant a bond if a sponsor is not identified. Sometimes they need a sponsor. Sometimes you don't have to be a financial sponsor. Sometimes you don't need to be a housing sponsor. Sometimes you just need to be a responsible community member that would be there for that person in order for them to not miss their appointments and not miss their check-ins. They just want somebody to sign the paperwork as a sponsor. So as you guys can read the different titles, this is why sponsoring matters, what sponsorship can look like, what sponsorship usually does not mean, what may be asked of a sponsor, helpful documents, some California-specific notes from that information, and the best next steps, which ultimately comes down to the detainee's attorney. So this is just helpful information if you are interested to be a sponsor, because we know a lot of community members that are waiting for a sponsor to be identified in order to be released and therefore their bond to be granted. So I'm gonna talk about a bond hearing process. Well, typically if a bond hearing process, I'll talk about a community member we met at the vigils. Her name is Melanie. Her husband was detained at an ICE check-in. We met up with her. She then told us what took place. Her husband was detained at the detention center at the LA Federal Building. That is meant to be a short stay. And then they take him to a long-term stay, which is Adelanto. Typically, that's where folks are being taken. She spent months separated from her husband. Sometimes you can be going through a bond hearing process, it could take 2 months. That's the quickest I've heard one. Or it could take several months, like in the case of Melanie, where she was separated from the breadwinner of her family and therefore was very hard for her while she was separated from her husband. So sometimes bond hearings could take long, sometimes it could be short, depending on the case, because every case is different. Therefore, it's very hard for them to navigate if they do not have an immigration attorney. That's why it's very important that they seek that support. So bond hearing process, like I said, it could range depending on the case and depending on the judge if he's feeling sympathetic that day. So therefore, we have a lot of folks who are needing that assistance. And I did add the QR code for donations in case nobody saw that. Which is right there on the QR code. You can scan, but also that link takes you to folks. Let's say you come across a community member who needs that bond assistance. you can just have them apply, and they would be in my list, and I'll be in communication with folks who apply through our bond fund. That way, if we're not able to support, I can coordinate with somebody, with an organization that can able to provide that bond support as well. With that being said, that's the link to the donation page if you come across any community member who needs that support. And also, that's the sponsorship handout for folks who are on Zoom, so they can have it if they're interested in being a sponsor, and just what questions would need to be asked if interested. Of course, I'm going to end this presentation with a call to action. The call to action is if you are interested in the Clues Welcome Network, grocery delivery program, the sponsorship opportunities, please contact City Ben. If you're interested in the Interfaith Women Vigils, contact Reverend Rosa. And then if you're interested in volunteering for core observations, donate to learn about the bond fund, please contact me, and I'm more happy to get you involved. I'll also be here after the presentation to answer any questions that you might have in regards to these 3 things, but I'm just happy to be here, and thank you so much for your support. Questions? That means I did a great job. Yeah.
How many places, I can speak loudly, how many places? I hate that damn. That's the reason I never ask questions, because I don't like the damn.
I'm sorry, but it helps us.
I know, I'm being nice. How many places are there that they detain people in LA County? Just Adelanto?
We just observe at the LA Federal Building, so I wouldn't know, but they are detaining folks at the check-ins.
No, I meant if there's people we know, where else would they be besides in downtown LA?
What do you mean to
I
detain?
mean physical locales, the women as well as the men. They don't put them in the same place, do they?
For the detention center?
Yes,
They do put them in the same place.
they do.
Yeah, I visited a mother at the B18 room, and my mom visited a husband at the B18 room. So they're both detained at the B18 room at the
But
detention center.
After BET, where do they go after that?
Most of the time they're being transferred out to Adelanto Detention Center. That's one of the detention centers that's close by here.
Is that the main one for Los Angeles?
Usually, or it could be California City. It just depends.
Oh, there's one in California City.
Yeah, there's a detention center in
I know
California City.
California City well. We tried to sell lots of sand out there to no avail. Thank you.
I would open up the discussion with Reverend Rosa. I'd like to talk about the Plaza de Mayo and how the Godmother started. It's right there.
I think too we should pay attention if there's anyone on Zoom that has questions about this. And I'm not the only IHM that's been very active. Mary Kirchen has sat there the 4 to 5 hours for the bonds also. And I see Lucia's hand went up, right, Lucia?
I have a question, Jennifer. Are you taking any action of the hospital that has treated that woman you shared with us? Is there any way that volunteers can creatively make known? I'm just startled with that information this afternoon.
Yeah, when that took place, we did a press conference to alert and get state officials to kind of address what took place at the Glendale Memorial Hospital. So we did kind of talk and gathered a few faith leaders to kind of speak on what took place when that community member was being targeted by ICE. So yes, we did some steps in order to have the hospital make a statement, and they did. And so far, they negated that statement. So we try to do some press conference in order to advocate for the community member who was on the hands of ICE during that time.
Anybody else on Zoom? I see chat there.
I would just comment, if you have any inclination to do volunteering around some of the ways that Jennifer spoke about, don't hesitate. As you can tell, she's an amazing supporter for the volunteer work that you might end up doing. And I can speak from my experience that, you know, you learn how to do it, and you go and do it, and it's a good thing to do. So thank you, Jennifer. You're pretty amazing.
Thank you, Mary. Would you like to share?
I'd also just like to add that one of the significant things that I think Clue does is a constant witness to all of this, because the general public is kind of asleep on so many things unless there's somebody involved or a group involved like Clue to keep it in the public dialogue, keep this these situations, you know, the awareness of it, and you do such a good job of it.
I have in the past visited people in prison and been very surprised by how restrictive it is. And it's almost, it almost feels like getting through a labyrinth to gain entrance. And I'm wondering, when visiting ICE detainees, you mentioned bringing a sweater and bringing some information papers. Are they very restrictive about what you can give to a detainee? Can you give paperwork and clothing and possibly food, or how are they?
You just can't bring a sweater and medicine that's prescribed to them. Sometimes we didn't have a paper, and I was like, can you please give me a piece of paper so I can write down some information to that person? But they're very restrictive. They ask you to turn off your phone when you do talk to the community member. Particularly at the B18, they ask you to do that. They check you with that metal detector thing, and then you just get 15 minutes to talk to that community member at the B18. At the Adelanto, they're very strict on what you wear. You can't even wear a wire bra when you go to visit somebody. They want you to turn off your phone. They just want you to have your ID if you do visit a person and a male. And so, yeah, they're very restricted when you talk to them. And at Delanto, you get an hour to speak to the community member who is detained. Definitely encourage folks to do that. If you are interested in doing that, please talk to me, and I connect you with my colleague Guillermo, who does that a visitation work. Thank you for sharing.
I just want to say thank you to you and to Mary Kirchen for the work that you're doing. My gardener got snatched up in Ventura last September, and he was pretty desperate when he was in Adelanto. It's all about breaking spirits. And the work that you all do gave him hope. It gave his family hope. We got him out after 7 months, and his family was devastated. They have a handicapped child who was regressed, and it takes community love. It takes reaching out to people. There are people apparently there who will just lay down and can't go forward. It's cold. They're hungry. They're treated terribly. So thank you, the work that you've done.
Thank you.
So you're going to think this is totally ignorant because I am the general public, okay? How does ICE identify these people that they're targeting?
In the courtrooms?
No, like if they're going to pick someone off the street, what makes them say, I'm going to pick you up?
Sometimes
or I'm going to come to your house today and detain you?
Sometimes they have a list. Sometimes they're feeling bad or angry, and they just detain somebody at a bus stop. It could be random targets, or it could be targeted if they have a list.
So basically, in America today, because you are a person of color, you can immediately be targeted as, show me your documents. So have we returned to Nazi Germany? I mean, this is horrible. That's awful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. I just wanted to add, A talking point that I sometimes use with the general public is they get the immigrants' information from their tax documents. That's right, our undocumented people are paying taxes. And I find that people are astounded. I'm like, where do you think the list comes from? Other than just grabbing people that are of color from their tax documents.
So just so you are aware, and I'm saying this more and more now, even at our CLUE meetings, this is just not about migrants anymore. All those warehouses are being bought, huge warehouses, to be filled with bodies. This is about making money. There are people that are making money. It is a form of human trafficking. And at this point, it doesn't matter whether you're documented, undocumented, whether you are a citizen, whether you are a child, whether you are a protester, it doesn't matter. Just this morning, we have found out that Lorenzo, and I don't have his last name, who was shot and killed in Houston, Texas. And ICE said that he tried to ram them with his car, which we've heard before with other people, and it's not true. ICE has admitted they got the wrong person. So they killed this man because they got the wrong person. The Supreme Court ruled months and months and months ago that it is all right for ICE to detain anyone who fits the description because of their color, because they have an accent, because of their last name, which means that we now live in a United States where you are guilty until proven innocent. There is no innocent until proven guilty. That is gone. And the way you see ICE acting right now, that's the way immigration has been acting for decades with people of color. Decades. It's just that now you see it. Now you see it. I would encourage people that Wednesday accompaniment, those children are going to be traumatized. It's going to be for generations now. They need someone to be there on Wednesday because they literally are alone. And that's not new either. That's been happening for decades. So just get involved. Everyone can do something. And the most important thing, quit listening to Fox and start finding out what really is happening, because there's a lot of stuff that's going down. And we shouldn't be surprised if those of us that are legal and white someday find ourselves in a cell because it didn't affect us today.
I think just a piece I'd want to add to that. A long time ago, there was a coalition that started called DCFS, Give Us Back Our Children, because of the number of kids that were being picked up by DCFS, mostly because of poverty, not because of poor parenting. And what's happening today when parents are picked up or where kids are left alone, they're being put in the foster care system. And I don't have the exact number, but I know I'm not exaggerating. There's at least 10,000 kids that are now being placed in the foster care system, which has always been a money-making system. And so it just gets more and more. And then at 18 they're kicked out, and the vast population of those who are unhoused are Tay youth. So it's just, I have a friend who talks about working on an issue that sticks like a washcloth in your throat. There are so many ways to get involved. There's so many things that need to be done on any front, any dimension, and the systems are complicit in supporting ICE, supporting this movement, but there's systems that have been in place for a long time.
It's me again. Just building off of what Judy said, sorry, my last comment. I'm a big fan of the idea of public shaming, and part of the idea that there are people making money and getting rich selling warehouses, and I don't understand much about it, but there's people probably making a lot of money in the foster care system, but they're obscure and unknown. And though we know a bunch of famous billionaires, I feel like broadcasting the faces of the guy who got rich building ICE centers and the people who get rich off of foster children would be really beneficial. In fact, I think I heard a story about a guy in Arizona who was going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars selling his warehouse to ICE. And the people of Arizona found out who the man was, and they had a target to protest, and I believe they were able to destroy the deal because they had a face. And it bothers me to think there are people who I don't know, and hopefully for their sake, I'll never find out who they are, and they're making millions of dollars providing ICE with the tools they need to do this injustice, but they're keeping their faces secret and private, and I think they should be celebrated as famous people who make money off of tragedy. And I think it would be much easier to stop it if we had the face of the guy who made his riches doing this stuff. I think it would turn people's stomach, and they would probably unite and do something about it. Thank you, and that is my last comment.
Piggybacking on that comment, a very easy way that we can do something in our everyday life is to find out your bank, the bank that you do business with. Find out where their investments go. You may be surprised that they invest in the private detention centers, which is blood money. And it's time to tell our banks, no, not like that. Ask your churches, that collection money, where is that being banked, and what does that bank do as far as investments are concerned? Am I making donations and then it's going to do all of this oppression? City of Los Angeles, last I heard when I used to work for them, was banking with Wells Fargo, a major investor in detention centers. Those are little ways to get started. Look at our own checks that we write out. What is our money financing? What are our taxes financing?
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So Jennifer, thank you so much. We are delighted to have you here, helping us, again, increase our awareness of the reality in our streets, because it's still happening and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But you're doing the work. You've got the passion, and thank you for the work that you do. On behalf of the community, here's a little gift for you.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you, Angel, for being here too. So thank you, everybody, for coming. Jennifer gave you a list of things that you could do.
Yes.
I would really encourage you to look into the bond program too. That's a really fantastic way to support that kind of keeps revolving and, keeps on giving. So anyway, thank you for coming, and hopefully we'll see you in August. Oh my goodness, it's going to be August pretty soon for the next Lunch and Learn. So have a good rest of your day, everybody. Thank you.
Recording stopped.